I had high hopes.
The 2025 American supernatural horror hit, The Bondsman, has been likened to a new version of Supernatural and has officially been released. The film's opening has already shocked viewers. But wait. The story begins with a bounty hunter named Hub. In order to hunt down a wanted criminal with a bounty of up to $15,000, Hub goes alone to Ul's hideout. When he discovers that the target appears to have no intention of surrendering, Hub immediately pries open the ventilation, then stuffs a hornet's nest into the house and quietly hides behind the door, waiting for the opportune moment. A piercing scream suddenly erupts, and the panicked criminal rushes out of the house, immediately falling into the noose that Hub has prepared. Seeing his prey about to escape, Hub immediately swings his baton, delivering a final, fatal blow. He thinks he's caught the right guy, but quickly realizes it's not the person he was looking for. At this point, Hub doesn't yet know that he's just walked into a pre-planned trap. Billy coldly smiles, and Hub is immediately knocked to the ground. Luckily, he's wearing a bulletproof vest, so he's okay. However, Earl has no intention of letting him go. He presses a knife against Hub's throat. Before Hub can even beg for his life, Earl brutally slashes his throat. The protagonist collapses, seemingly dead, and it's at this moment that the movie officially hits its climax. 3 strange scratch marks suddenly appear on Hub's arm, instantly reviving him. As consciousness slowly returns, Hub realizes he's been crammed into a narrow wall cavity. Without even thinking about what just happened, he uses all his strength to break through the planking. But when he stands up and looks in the mirror, he's horrified to find the deep cut on his neck is still there, a clear reminder that he just lost a life. Just then, a noise from outside can be heard. Before Hub can even hide, a man enters the room and immediately freezes upon seeing the scene before him. Hub rushes him and subdues him. At this point, the scary thing isn't the weapon, but the fact that a dead man is still alive and acting. The man tremblingly explains that he was hired to dispose of the body, but if he got this far, he must know who killed Hub. Without a word, Hub drags him out and shoves him into the trunk of the car, then uses duct tape to wrap around his neck to stop the bleeding. In that moment, he also notices the 3 scratch marks on his arm. No matter how hard he tries to wipe them off, they won't disappear. However, Hub isn't in a hurry for revenge and instead turns the car around and heads home. After all, he's already dead, so the matter of life and death doesn't matter to him anymore. But as he walks into the garage, he suddenly receives a strange phone call, and it's an automated call with the following message. Congratulations, you've joined the Pot O' Gold family. If you require area management, introductory training, or guidance, remain silent. Otherwise, I will castrate you. At Pot O' Gold Group, we make the impossible possible. Hub figures it's just some junk advertising call, so he doesn't pay much attention to it. But he has no idea that the call is closely connected to his upcoming fate. He goes into the bathroom, intending to stitch up the wound on his neck himself. But what shocks him even more is that the fatal gash on his neck has completely healed, leaving only a faint red line, like a minor cut. Hub doesn't understand what's happening, so he rushes to his mother to find out. Just then, he encounters a pastor trying to persuade his mother to return to church. After chasing him away, Hub learns a shocking truth from his mother: the 2 brothers, Billy, who murdered him, were bailed out of jail a week ago by Lucky. And Lucky just happens to be the current boyfriend of Hub's ex-wife. So, it's very possible that Lucky hired Billy and Earl to take care of Hub in order to gain custody of his son. Having figured everything out, Hub angrily prepares to go find Lucky to settle the score. But because his ex-wife is in the middle of it, he's forced to come up with a perfect plan. Just as Hub is revising the arrest warrant, the Pot O' Gold Company ad rings again on his phone, making him furious. He immediately yanks out the phone cord. But just a second later, all the phones in the drawer start ringing simultaneously, and they're all calls from Pot O' Gold. Hub angrily curses under his breath. These marketing people really don't know what shame is. But he doesn't have time to think much about it because he still has important things to do. Tater sees the shovel and fertilizer bag in Hub's hand and gets so scared that he almost pees his pants. No, these aren't for you. Congratulations on joining the Pot O' Gold family. Hub arrives at Lucky's bar and sees his ex-wife singing on stage. He takes the opportunity to try and grab her, but unexpectedly, his son appears. Out of options, Hub is forced to abandon his plan this time. He meets with his ex-wife and makes it clear that Lucky is a scumbag. Last night, he even hired someone to slit his throat. But Marianne, seeing Hub's neck smooth, thinks he's joking. She hands him an agreement and wants him to sign it so she can take their son away from this place. Hub angrily leaves the bar, deciding to go to Billy and Ul's hideout to take revenge. However, as he passes a church, he suddenly sees the pastor staring intently at him with fiery, glowing eyes. Even more frightening, he seems to be about to chase after him. If Hub hadn't immediately floored the accelerator, he probably would have died again. Hub escapes by the skin of his teeth and arrives at his destination. He quietly approaches the guard from behind and uses his newfound strength to kick the door open and barge in. Before Billy can react, he fires a shot, causing the other man to collapse on the spot. Seeing Hub suddenly appear, Ul's face turns as white as a ghost, because he clearly sent Hub to the afterlife. How is he still alive? All three of them are shocked to the core. Eventually, everyone is tied to chairs by Hub. When Hub tells Billy to call Lucky, Earl suddenly looks out the window and sees the church pastor standing there, staring intently at them. Hub immediately unties him and orders him to go chase the pastor away, while he pulls another person into the room inside. But when he looks outside, Hub witnesses a terrifying scene. The lights in the house begin to flicker on and off continuously, and a blood-curdling scream rings out from the door. Ul's body is suddenly lifted into the air and then twisted by an unseen force like a mop. Billy is no better off. Through a crack, Hub sees the pastor's face suddenly become ferocious, and he charges straight towards them. He's so terrified that he immediately squeezes the trigger of his gun, but the bullet has absolutely no effect on him. In that do-or-die moment, Hub doesn't hesitate and flees the scene. As soon as he runs outside, the man who was screaming also falls strangely silent. Hub no longer has the mind to go back and get his car, so he immediately waves down a passing truck and asks the driver to take him home immediately. As soon as he walks through the door, Hub sees his mother sitting with a strange woman. The woman is not at all polite and frankly complains, "It's been really difficult to get in touch with you, so I was forced to come here myself." Midge tells Hub that he's already dead and has even stood before the gates of hell. "I'm here to provide introductory training for your new job. The fact that you can stand here now is entirely because we temporarily revived you." She says that he can consider this like a suspended sentence, and she is his parole officer or bondsman. And in return, from today on, Hub will have to work for her. Basically, he's still a bounty hunter, but the only difference is that the targets he hunts now will be demons, and serving the devil is his new task. Because he doesn't want to worry his mother, Hub initially intends to refuse Midge's offer. However, the consequence is that he immediately collapses in his own house. He understands that she's not joking, so he has to tell his mother everything. But his mother is completely confused and says she can't understand why her upright son could end up in hell. Midge doesn't answer that question, but instead begins to explain Hub's job. His mission is to capture escaped demons and return them to hell. Once he fails to meet his quota, he will be summoned and will never be able to return to the human world again. Before Hub can even ask any questions, Midge leaves behind an employee handbook and departs. Before leaving, she also warns him, "Don't ever contact me again." Elsewhere, Lucky arrives at Billy and his gang's hideout to question why they failed to take care of Hub. But what he sees instead is a scattering of wreckage and the severed limbs of the entire group. A cold shiver runs down Lucky's spine, and he immediately turns around and drives away. But then he suddenly sees Hub's car on the side of the road, and a cry for help can be heard from inside the trunk. Lucky cautiously opens the trunk lid and sees Tater tied up inside. Tater immediately recounts everything and says that it was all Hub's doing. At the same time, Hub receives a fax. It clearly states the name of the demon that is his next target, along with specific coordinates. Hub's mother looks it up and discovers that this time the target is none other than Pastor Ron. It turns out that the day before, Ron discovered that the church had suddenly lost power. But as soon as he flipped the breaker back on, a series of strange phenomena began to occur. His poster automatically bursts into flames, but only the part with the eyes burns. And the face of a demon appears in the mirror, reflecting under the constantly flickering lights. Ron immediately grabs the crucifix and begins reading the Bible, sprinkling holy water everywhere. The mirrors that the holy water touches immediately shatter. But in a corner that Ron can't see, a stream of lightning quietly sneaks into the chalice, causing the holy water to bubble and boil. As Ron continues to sprinkle holy water, the demon follows his arm and enters his body. His eyes immediately flare up with a brilliant blue light, and soon after, he collapses. The demon has taken possession of Ron's body. It slowly stands up and heals the wounds on the pastor's face itself. Hub, on his side, has finished preparing his weapons and is ready to go. But Hub's mother is adamant about going with him. As a veteran bounty hunter, she believes she can support her son. Although Hub tries to persuade his mother to stay in the car, how can Kitty feel at ease sitting still? Her unexpected appearance almost scares her precious son to death. She's already arrived, so it's not reasonable to send her back now. So, the two of them enter the main hall together and see half a person's face lying on the floor. They quickly conclude that the demon has left this place. To ensure her safety, Hub goes to the bar to find his ex-wife and get her to sign the agreement, then tells her to immediately take their son out of town. Clearly, he still can't let go of the person he once loved. When he returns home, Hub discovers that every time the demon gets close, the lights in the house flicker violently. So, they can rely on this characteristic to track its movements. But Kitty is still agonizing over why her son was sent to hell. Why were you sent to hell? Mom has always been afraid to ask, but now I have to know the truth. Hub shakes his head and says he doesn't know. Maybe hell made a mistake. But looking into his eyes, it seems that things aren't as simple as that. To avoid this topic, Hub immediately enters the equipment room and chooses the necessary tools for hunting demons. When he's finished preparing, the two of them begin to follow the flickering streetlights and arrive at the demon's hideout. Hub still tells his mother to stay in the car, while he takes his weapons and quietly enters the abandoned factory. As soon as he gets inside, he immediately sees characters drawn in blood on the floor. Clearly, it's performing some kind of evil ritual. As Hub raises his head, he sees a man hanging upside down from the ceiling, having met a very tragic end. At that moment, the flashlight in Hub's hand suddenly goes out, and then he's lifted into the air by a mysterious force. The demon materializes from the shadows, and without hesitation, throws Hub hard into the wall. Thanks to his near-death experiences, Hub manages to stay alive. Knowing that he's no match for it, he runs out of the factory and hides, luring the demon into the trap that he had prepared in advance. When he sees the demon trapped, Hub immediately shoots it with tranquilizer darts, but clearly, earthly things can't do anything to the demon. It roars a earth-shattering roar towards Kitty, who is standing and reading the Bible. The roar breaks her femur. Seeing this, Hub changes weapons and immediately opens fire. But normal ammunition is completely useless against it. The demon summons a nearby metal barrel and slams it hard into Hub, causing him to fall. Just as it's about to finish Hub off, Kitty manages to shoot it in time to save her son. Taking advantage of the demon treating its wound, Hub gets up and knocks over a cabinet, smashing its head. Hellfire erupts, burning the demon's soul and sending it back to where it belongs. The two of them think that this mission has been completed perfectly. However, what they don't realize is that Tater, who was hiding in the corner, has recorded the entire event that just took place. And also at that moment, another demon descends. The sound of running water suddenly echoes in the bathroom. A girl thinks her younger brother is sneaking around using the shower. But when she pulls back the curtain, there's no one inside. However, as the girl locks the valve and prepares to leave, the shower suddenly turns on again. Then all the other faucets in the room start spewing tap water. The girl immediately panics. When the final valve is opened, the figure of the demon suddenly appears in the mirror. Immediately after, a strange force lifts her into the air. Before she can even react, she's thrown hard towards the bathtub. The pulling force is too strong, and she is completely unable to escape the surface of the water. At this point, no one will answer if she cries out to heaven, and no one will hear if she begs the earth. Meanwhile, the demon hunter Hub is getting a stern lecture from his mother. She worries that if her son doesn't take his job seriously, he'll be captured by demons and dragged back to hell. But Hub appears calm and confident, because he believes that if there was someone better suited to hunt demons than him, hell wouldn't have chosen him in the first place. He tells his mother to keep an eye on the fax machine, then grabs a stack of documents and leaves the house. On the way, Hub stops Lucky's car because he wants to personally take his son to school before his ex-wife leaves town. Lucky looks unhappy, but Marianne stops him and says to just consider this a gentle farewell. Because he wants to leave a good impression, Hub lets his son drive to school, but in reality, He has his own plan in mind. While they're driving, Hub takes out Lucky's criminal record and gives it to his son to look at. He then tells his son that Lucky is a terrible person, and he hopes Cade can advise his mother to reconsider. But unexpectedly, Cade seems to quite like the stepfather. He says that Lucky always makes mom happy, and even bought a house for the two of them to live in together. After saying this, Cade opens the door, intending to get out of the car. Hub hurriedly grabs his son, trying to explain that everything Lucky is doing will eventually backfire on the two of them. But before Hub can convince his son, his mother calls him. She informs him that she's discovered a new demon named Marphos, originating from ancient Egypt, and it's an extremely powerful aquatic entity. Therefore, to destroy it, they absolutely must not let it get near any water source. Kitty looks at the image displayed on the computer and feels that this action will be extremely dangerous. She tells Hub to be absolutely careful. Then the two quickly arrive at the designated location. Hub goes to observe the house, seeing water flowing from the upper floor. He's now certain that the demon is in the house. Hub uses his skilled lock-picking technique to enter the house. As soon as he steps inside, he sees that the floor is flooded. When he enters the bathroom, it's become a miniature ocean, but there's no sign of humans or demons. Looking at the streaks of blood on the wall, Hub confirms that the demon has left this place. If it blends into the crowd, it could cause an unpredictable disaster. As a water demon, and with hundreds of lakes, ponds, and streams around the town, finding its hiding place is a very difficult task. But that's not the worst thing, because Tater has brought the photos he took last night and handed them over to Lucky. He tells Lucky that Hub and his mother are witches and are performing evil rituals. Lucky looks at Tater with eyes like he's looking at a crazy person because he's a materialist and completely doesn't believe in ghosts, demons, or gods. But looking at the photos in his hand, perhaps he's come up with an idea to push Hub far away from Marianne. Immediately after, Lucky goes straight to Hub's house. But Kitty doesn't bother to give him any face, and her attitude is clearly cold. Knowing that he can't persuade her, Lucky can only leave behind the stack of photos and issue a warning. Hub and you should stay away from my family, otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. When looking at the photos in the documents, Kitty knows that something big has happened. She has to think of a way to silence Lucky. At this time, Cade is with Hub, tracking the demon. But he can't tell his son the truth, and can only apologize for what just happened, saying that he shouldn't have dug up Lucky's sinful past. Just then, Hub suddenly notices a broken fire hydrant and immediately asks his son to stop the car. According to the map in hand, the closest water source to the girl's house is a swimming center. The two of them immediately head there. Hub climbs through the bathroom window to break in and immediately sees water puddles all over the floor. A shoe of a cleaning worker lies rolling not far from that position. Hub follows the traces and enters the main hall where he finds the other shoe. As he's about to step forward, a scene stops him dead in his tracks. The cleaning worker's corpse is still standing straight at the bottom of the swimming pool, and around his body are triangular symbols, like a summoning ritual. While Hub is still in shock, the demon suddenly leaps out from under the diving board and attacks him. It pulls him down into the pool, using all its strength to drown him, quickly sinking him deep into the water. It wants to drown him, but Hub isn't about to give up so easily. He pulls out a dagger from his person and violently slashes at the demon, then stabs it again. But these actions only stimulate the demon's vicious nature even more. It immediately tightens its grip on Hub's neck, causing his consciousness to begin to fade. In that critical moment, the instinct of a demon hunter helps him regain consciousness and plunge the dagger straight into the demon's eye. Hellfire erupts, burning the demon's soul, and another one is returned to Mother Earth. Thinking that this mission has been a success, Hub has barely left the scene when police cars appear outside the center. Fearing that the police will misunderstand him as the perpetrator who murdered the cleaning worker, Hub immediately calls his son and tells him to drive the car away from the area. Then he calls the police and reports that a young man is driving under the influence of alcohol. There are cases of parents harming their children, but this time it's truly a father setting up his son. Because the police chief is nearby, she's immediately dispatched to handle the situation. Waiting until they leave, Hub removes the hard drive of the surveillance camera to erase all traces of the scene. Marianne, Hub's ex-wife, is very angry with his actions, and the two of them argue fiercely. But Marianne doesn't know that Hub is doing all of this to protect his son. The argument ends unhappily. Hub arrives home and feels extremely uneasy, because he knows very well the reason why he was sent to hell. Just 1 month ago, Hub personally buried a girl's body, and she was Cheryl, the missing person that the whole town is looking for. Since becoming a demon hunter, he's constantly seen Cheryl appear before his window, watching him with extremely haunting eyes. The torment in his mind makes Hub think about confessing the whole truth, but he's still hesitant. Just then, the fax machine sends the next mission, and this time the target is named Erdos, also known as the Earth Demon. It takes advantage of a man having lunch and sneaks into his car. The man thinks he's seeing things, but just a few seconds later, his neck is squeezed tightly. A wisp of smoke took the opportunity to enter the victim's body, causing the man to writhe in pain, his hands clutching tightly at his throat. Immediately after, the man tears his own throat open. And when he opens his eyes, the demon has completed the ritual of possession smoothly. When Hub arrives at the scene, all he sees is the empty police car. He intends to call for backup, but unexpectedly, his mother is busy dealing with Lucky's situation. To prevent Lucky from having the opportunity to set up the two of them, Kitty first sets fire to Lucky's fancy car. Then, as Lucky steps out to inspect it, she secretly hides the weapon used for hunting demons the other day under Lucky's desk. After that, she puts an extra bag of candy in the drawer. As she's preparing to leave, she happens to run into Marianne. Even though she knows that Kitty has just done something shady, Marianne doesn't expose her. Instead, she gently asks her to advise Hub not to continue interfering in her life. But she tells her that Marianne should go say it herself. Marianne has no choice but to turn on the phone's location to find Hub's position. Because his mother can't come to help, plus the demon this time seems difficult to deal with, Hub decides to handle it himself. But while he's searching, Marianne follows the location and finds him. "Why are you here? How did you find me?" Hub asks. "You're still using my family plan, you cheapskate." Hub immediately demands that his ex-wife leave immediately. But Marianne is still holding a grudge about what happened yesterday and forces Hub to go apologize to their son. But the situation is very urgent right now, so Hub has no mind to argue with Marianne. Suddenly, a strange sound comes from a distance. When she sees Hub pull out his weapon, Marianne realizes the severity of the situation and quickly prepares to leave. But when she turns around a curve, she's shocked to see a large pile of dirt in front of her. Out of curiosity, Marianne steps forward and discovers a corpse with its abdomen stuffed full of dirt. Hub hears the scream and immediately runs over. He tries to reassure Marianne, helping her to slowly calm down. But as Hub is about to take her away, Marianne unexpectedly sees a police officer shoveling dirt nearby and hurriedly cries for help. Unexpectedly, that man is the demon in disguise, who has just discovered them. He roars and lunges to attack. Hub immediately opens fire, but normal bullets are completely useless against the demon. Marianne is so stunned that she doesn't have time to react. If Hub hadn't shouted, she probably would have forgotten to run away. The demon climbs straight up the wall, and in the blink of an eye, it closes in on Hub and pounces, causing him to fall to the floor. Seeing Hub struggling to defend himself, Marianne immediately grabs a steel hoe on the shelf and, with all her strength, stabs it straight into the demon's back. But that blow isn't lethal enough, so it only causes the demon to switch targets and become even more insane. At the critical moment, a gunshot rings out. Hub has escaped and fired a shot that eliminates the demon. Afterward, he leads Marianne safely out of the supermarket. Arriving home, Marianne is still in shock from learning that demons really exist, completely shattering her worldview. While his ex-wife is showering, Hub sits down to review all the information about the 3 demons he's hunted, and discovers that they seem to be performing some kind of sacrificial ritual. Hub wants to clarify this issue, so he calls Mitch. But she immediately refuses to communicate, citing the reason that they are not allowed to contact each other. Hub patiently explains his entire experience, but Marianne, like Kitty, still can't understand why, after losing his life, Hub was sent to hell. At this time, Hub still has no intention of telling the truth, so he makes up a reason to gloss over the matter. At the same time, Marianne finally believes that Lucky was the one who hired people to kill Hub. It seems that it's time for her to break up with him. Hub takes the opportunity to tell her to take their son out of town as soon as possible. Wait until they're safe, and then she can come back. Soon after, the police receive a tip and conduct a search of Lucky's bar, then arrest him on the spot. It seems that Hub and his mother will finally have a few days of peace and quiet. Marianne gets into the police car and officially says goodbye to Lucky. Then she says goodbye to Hub and takes her son out of town. Thinking that everything has been resolved perfectly, the police chief begins to feel that something is not right. Because Hub had previously called the police station to ask for information about the suspicious male police officer, this small detail has caused the police chief to start monitoring him. You said that the hardware store burned to ashes. You burned all the surveillance cameras. Then pray to God that what you said is true. As a chosen demon hunter, Hub also feels that something is very unusual about what has happened. He happens to see his mother reading the book Demonolatria, and there's a page of information in it that makes him suddenly think of something. While Hub is researching further, 2 other demons have escaped from hell and begin searching for hosts to possess. But, accompanied by the sound of tires exploding, a woman is flung hundreds of feet. Only after regaining her senses does she see the truck flipped upside down. She frantically runs to check on her husband inside and is horrified to discover that both her husband and the driver have lost their lives. Even their mouths are full of their own small and large intestines. At this time, Hub has discovered the pattern of the demon's appearances through studying the inverted pentagram formation recorded in the book. Currently, the water demon, the earth demon, and the lightning demon have revealed themselves, and all 3 have sacrificed a human life. Combining the location of their appearances with the triangular symbols around the scene, Hub guesses that the next 2 demons will be the wind demon and the fire demon, with their coordinates located in the northeast direction, respectively. When these points are connected with lines, they form a complete inverted pentagon. Legend has it that this formation can reverse space and time, so it seems that the demons are summoning an even more terrifying force. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Hub immediately goes to Midge's house. But Midge doesn't welcome him, because demon hunters are not allowed to contact their superiors directly. Hub is anxious and tries to persuade her to look at the file. He says that something big is about to happen, but Midge still coldly demands that he leave. Hub has no choice but to tell her about how he had seen Midge's fundraising website, along with an article about her son being miraculously cured of his illness. Through this, he can be sure that hell is holding Midge's weakness in its hands. It turns out that 9 years ago, Midge's son contracted cancer, forcing her to run around everywhere seeking help. But the enormous treatment costs overwhelmed her family. Even selling all their assets wouldn't raise even a small fraction of the hospital fees. Having reached a dead end, Midge once intended to sell a kidney. But while she was searching online, an ad from Pot O' Gold Company automatically popped up. The content of the ad stated that if she just filled out the form and sold her soul, the company would help her fulfill any wish. Initially, Midge thought it was just a scam ad and intended to close it. But then the form on the website automatically filled in all her information. In the final section, the terms clearly stated that if she confirmed the sale of her soul, the company would cure her son's cancer. Faced with that only ray of hope, Midge didn't hesitate and clicked the confirm button. The next day, a man came to Midge's house. He brought a fax machine and placed it in the living room, saying that this device could connect directly to hell. From then on, all her work would be conveyed through it. Midge expressed skepticism and asked him what exactly her job was. The man explained that her job was mainly recruitment. Later, she might have to handle some troublesome personnel matters. For example, resolving requests for reanimation or supervising the bounty hunters. But in the initial stage, her job was simply to promote the deal of exchanging souls for miracles. To put it bluntly, she had to go around brainwashing people and enticing them to trade their souls for wishes. However, as the superior, for every soul traded successfully, the man would be credited with 1/3 of the effort. It was similar to how he had to pay tribute to his higher UPS. Pot O' Gold Group is essentially a multi-level marketing model that sells souls. We prefer to call it limited multi-tier marketing. And to succeed, you need to grasp the motives of the target: fame, money, or eternal beauty. After explaining everything, seeing that Midge was still skeptical, the man told her that even if she had signed the contract, her son's condition wouldn't worsen. But if everything was true, who knows, she might even be able to dance at his wedding. And those words touched Midge's heart, causing her to sign the contract immediately. Seeing this, the other person takes out an ink pad. His expression is somewhat awkward. "You've already signed, so all that's left is a fingerprint." Suddenly, a sharp thorn pops out, stabbing Midge's finger, causing it to bleed. And she used that drop of blood to press down on the contract. The man quickly takes the paper back, as if afraid she'd change her mind, and sends it to headquarters via fax. As soon as the contract takes effect, Midge looks in the mirror and sees a different world. What's happening? That's right, now you can see the other world, so the reflection will start to become a little strange. But don't worry, you'll get used to it. As soon as the other person finished speaking, 3 sharp scratch marks appeared on Midge's arm, the symbol of someone working for hell. From that day on, her son grew up healthy, while Midge herself had to go around enticing people to sell their souls. After learning about Midge's past, Hub felt extremely sympathetic. We're both people who have fallen on hard times, so why won't you help me? He immediately hands over the documents, inviting Midge to take a look. But unexpectedly, she flares up and angrily says, "You and I are not the same type of person. You went to hell because of your own actions, while I volunteered and it was for love. As a manager, I won't interfere in the affairs of you demon hunters." Hub thinks that's too selfish, so he gets angry and yells. He says that she can sit there comfortably signing names and calculating quotas, but the people she hands over to the demons are still living, breathing human beings. So don't act so noble in front of me. Hearing this, Midge immediately kicks Hub out of her house. Seeing that he can't persuade her, Hub throws the file on the floor and angrily leaves. But on the way home, his mother calls and informs him that a new demon has appeared a few hours ago. Hub guesses that it's either a fire demon or a wind demon. Kitty says that its name is Sliferous and it's a wind demon with a final move that is the kiss of death for its victim. Hub immediately sets out to the scene, following his mother's instructions. But all Hub sees is 2 pools of blood splattered around. If the demons have to kill their victims before possessing their bodies, then that means that this time there are 2 demons that have appeared. Combining this with the data in his investigation, Hub determines that they have gone east, because the wind element is located on the right wing of the inverted pentagon and there's a river in that direction. If they want to cross that river, they can only go over a single bridge. So Hub decides to go to the bridge first to set up an ambush. He waits until late at night, and finally sees a group of people walking onto the bridge. After using a scope to check, Hub confirms that they are indeed the 2 demons he's looking for. But one of them has a woman on his back, making it difficult for him to strike accurately. To make sure he can finish them off precisely, he turns on the high-powered headlights and pulls the trigger without hesitation. The demon immediately throws the woman down, preparing to charge forward, but then takes a bullet. The remaining demon immediately jumps onto the bridge. Because he's blocked by the woman, Hub is confused and doesn't know what to do. While he's still hesitating, a car suddenly charges straight towards him. Hub staggers and crawls out of the car. As he's about to grab his weapon, a foot stomps hard on him. And the person who just appeared is Lucky, who was just bailed out of jail. Lucky kicks Hub hard, like a thunderbolt. Meanwhile, because her son hasn't come home all night, Kitty worriedly runs to the area around the bridge to search. But all she finds is a discarded bullet casing. She's about to call Hub when she discovers that her son's phone was left in the car. Just then, the police frequency monitor announces that a murder has just occurred in the town. Kitty immediately speeds to the scene. She drives and prays that it's not her Hub. As she sneaks through the crowd, she sees a female body lying in the middle of the triangular magic circle. Knowing that it's not her son, Kitty temporarily breathes a sigh of relief. Because she doesn't want to draw attention to herself, she prepares to leave the scene. But at this time, the police chief has noticed her and stops her, asking where she's going. Kitty replies that she's going to deliver documents to the court. But the police chief asks if anyone delivers mail wearing a bulletproof vest like she is. Kitty only gives a forced but still polite smile. The police chief has no choice but to let her go, but the suspicion in her heart only increases. At this time, Hub is taken home by Lucky. The first thing Lucky does is make Hub pay in full for everything that has happened before. He handcuffs Hub to a chair and prepares to shoot a video, forcing Hub to confess to murder. It turns out that a month ago, when Hub discovered that Lucky was seeing his ex-wife, he went to Lucky's bar, intending to teach him a lesson. But he underestimated the bodyguards beside Lucky. After punching Lucky once, Hub was ganged up on by the bodyguards and beaten to a pulp. Because he was so angry, Hub downed 2 bottles of liquor, then waited until the bar closed and returned with weapons, determined to take care of Lucky to end everything. When he successfully shot the target, Hub hurriedly rushed over to confirm. But he was stunned when he realized that the person who had been shot was not Lucky, but Cheryl, who was wearing a hat similar to Lucky's. The scene before him immediately sobered Hub up, because he shot the wrong person. At that time, Cheryl desperately begged for her life. But before Hub could call for an ambulance, she took her last breath. Hub panicked and collapsed. After some deliberation, he decided to bury the truth. But what Hub didn't expect was that Lucky, on the upper floor, had witnessed him moving the body with his own eyes. "I heard from Marianne that you killed someone? Well, then, let me hear you tell me in your own words what really happened that night at the bar, huh?" Seeing that Hub was choked up and refused to confess, Lucky had no choice but to resort to torture. When he was preparing to continue interrogating him, a strange noise suddenly rang out outside. Lucky thought that Hub's mother had returned, so he intended to kill two birds with one stone. But then he witnessed a very creepy thing. In the moment that something charged at Lucky and knocked him down, Hub struggled to escape the handcuffs, then used his foot to hook the hammer nearby and pry open the remaining cuff on the other hand. When Hub steps out of the room, he sees Lucky being pressed face down on the floor by a demon, getting beaten to a pulp. Finding that weapons are useless against the demon, Lucky crawls right under the car, trying to escape. But the demon would never let him have his way. Then it pulls Lucky out and throws him hard into the wall. Seeing this, Hub immediately reloads his weapon, preparing to fight. But he doesn't notice that there's danger behind him. Only when he feels a cold gust of air behind him does he turn around. Hub carefully steps forward and fires a shot straight at the demon hiding on the ceiling, and accurately takes it down. Seeing that his companion is in danger, the remaining demon immediately releases Lucky and charges forward. But before it can get close, Hub has finished dealing with the first demon. Lucky takes the opportunity to get in the car and flee. He drives and chants the Bible like a shaman. When he sees the remaining demon charge at him, Hub quickly fires. But just as he's about to finish it off, he discovers that his gun is completely out of bullets. The demon begins to wake up. Hub hurriedly grabs the chainsaw and, as soon as the demon gets close, he activates it and stabs the chainsaw straight into its head. Hellfire erupts, burning both wind demons and sending them back to hell in humiliation. Afraid of being burned up too, Hub quickly uses a fire extinguisher to put out the fire, and then contacts his mother. Kitty hears her son's voice and immediately stops searching and returns home. While bandaging Hub's wounds, he intends to tell her the real reason why he was sent to hell. But the sound of a car siren ringing outside interrupts the story. Unexpectedly, his ex-wife Marianne has returned with his son. She wants Hub to tell Kate all about demon hunting because earlier that day, Marianne received a call from the police chief. They asked her if she was with Hub on the day the supermarket burned. Although Marianne made up a perfect lie, it turns out that the camera outside caught the two of them, meaning she's also involved. Tell the prosecutor that we need to install more wiretaps. The police chief had already suspected Hub, so now that she has evidence, she immediately orders her subordinates to investigate further. From the police chief's tone, Marianne immediately guesses that something is up, so she hurriedly leads her son back to find Hub. Knowing that he can no longer hide anything, Hub has no choice but to tell the whole truth. He tries to convince his son to leave as soon as possible, but Cade wants to fight alongside his father, and Marianne also decides to stay here. At this point, the demon hunting war has truly become a family affair. Alright, you're all really digging your own graves. Hub, along with his ex-wife and son, begin cleaning up the remaining demon corpses. Just then, a strange ringtone rings out. Marianne immediately recognizes it as Lucky's phone, and she also happens to know the unlock password. Hub starts to worry that his ex-wife will discover his secret, so he warns her that there's a video of Lucky abusing him saved inside, and if she wants to watch it, she should prepare herself mentally first. Hearing this, Marianne immediately throws the phone down and curses Lucky as a worthless bastard. Taking advantage of his ex-wife leaving the room, Hub quickly grabs a hammer and smashes the phone to pieces, not knowing that Lucky, who once faced demons, has gone to the church and is begging God to turn him into a holy warrior to grant him the power to punish Hub. The reunion of the whole family makes Kitty no longer want to ask any more about the reason why her son was sent to hell. Hub also expresses that he is trying to fix the mistakes of the past. Thinking that everything will finally take a turn for the better, Hell sends down a new mission. This time, the demon is named Pyrolus, a true fire demon that often hides in blazing volcanoes and burning chasms. It can unleash destructive fire, burning an entire region into a sea of flames. Everyone must destroy it before the final sacrifice takes place, otherwise, something incredibly terrible will be summoned. Perhaps this will be Hub's last mission, and no one knows whether he will be freed afterward or dragged back to hell. Therefore, Kitty suggests that the whole family pray for him. However, the sound of a car siren outside interrupts the prayer session. Midge rushes in, flustered, and says that this mission is extremely dangerous because if the fire demon sacrifices enough people and completes the inverted pentagon formation, it will release one of the 7 great archdemons who have been sealed. That demon used to be an angel, but then betrayed God and joined Lucifer's army. If it is released, the war between heaven and hell will begin, and humanity will become a sacrifice in the middle of the two forces. To put it simply, doomsday is approaching. The whole group acts immediately. Although Midge doesn't want to participate, she has to follow everyone to the residential area where the fire demon appeared, because of her son. They disguise themselves as firefighters and conduct inspections of each house. Hub, as a demon hunter, can look directly and identify demons with the naked eye. Midge, on the other hand, has to use a mirror to observe. But after a thorough search, the group doesn't find any signs of evil spirits. Instead, they run into a crazy person who opens fire for no reason. There's a gas leak, sir, get out of here immediately. Don't touch my family. If Hub hadn't reacted in time, he probably would have died under the gun of a human before he could even eliminate the demon. The whole group frantically hides behind the car. Initially, Hub didn't want to get involved with this crazy person. But after inspecting every house, he suddenly realizes that the demon could very well be hiding in that man's house. Having no other choice, Hub asks the group to distract the crazy man so that he can sneak in quietly and surprise him to subdue him. After pulling the man outside, Midge quickly enters the house to inspect it. Just then, Midge sees a young boy. The boy doesn't say a word, but just silently stares at the person who has just arrived. Oh my God, it can't be, no, please don't be him. Midge uses the mirror to observe and discovers that the child is the demon. But before she can act, the ground suddenly cracks open, creating deep fissures. Midge intends to pull the trigger, but when she sees the face that looks exactly like her son, she can't bear to do it. Just a second later, disaster strikes. A bottomless abyss appears before their eyes. Hub also understands that Midge has been forever buried in this death trap. That also means that the final sacrificial ritual has been completed, and one of the 7 archdemons is about to be summoned. But at present, they still don't know which demon it will be. The whole family gathers together, but everyone's heart is heavy with sorrow because they fear that Hub will be sent back to hell after this failure. To dispel that gloomy atmosphere, Hub starts singing a song that he and Marianne once wrote together. But that song only makes the atmosphere even heavier. Marianne quietly meets with Hub and once again expresses her feelings for him. It seems that love at this point has surpassed all words. Before long, Hell sends down a new mission, and this time the target is named Lilith. She is an extremely powerful demon, second only to Lucifer. But when looking at the coordinates on the map, Hub's expression suddenly changes, because the place where Lilith descended is the same location where he once buried Cheryl's body. Lilith, after reviving, appears outside a brightly lit house. It looks through the window and sees a record spinning around. The sound in it makes it seem to be lost in ecstasy. But just a second later, Lilith seems to be attracted by something else. It opens its wings and lands on the roof of a truck. It turns out that a more vibrant song is playing there, and that is what drew it there. Hub frantically runs to the cemetery, but all he sees is an empty grave. And that also makes him understand that this has gotten out of control. But what's worse is that Lucky has gone to the police station and reported Hub as a perpetrator of murder. He hands over the photos taken by Tater to the police chief. Seeing the clear evidence in her hand, the police chief immediately orders the arrest of Hub's entire family. At this time, Hub has been sleeping next to the grave all night. Marianne brings a cup of coffee to find him, but Hub's painful expression makes her realize that something is wrong. She immediately asks what the hole behind him is. Having no way out, Hub is forced to confess everything. He tells her that he accidentally caused Cheryl to lose her life, and now she has become the demon Lilith, returning to the human world. Hub begs his family to face the demon that he created with his own hands together. But after learning this truth, everyone expresses resentment and contempt for him. Marianne decides to take her son and leave, and his mother is so disappointed that she slams the door shut. In desperation, Hub can only go to the backyard and smash the wooden stakes randomly, venting all the suffering pent up in his heart. But just as Hub is about to give up on everything, a van suddenly appears in the area. The man gets out of the car, laughing, and then signals for the group to get out of the car immediately. "We're counting on you, don't screw things up." To Hub's astonishment, Midge, who was believed to have died, appears before his eyes. It seems that the demons still haven't let go of either of them. Midge announces that Lilith is their last mission, and when it's all over, both of them will be taken back to hell. Whether they do something or do nothing, the result is the same, so Hub thinks it's better to just give up. So he bluntly refuses this mission. But Midge makes it clear that everything she does is for her son. At least after she disappears, her loved ones can still live happily in a world without her. Those words deeply move Hub. Even if he has to go to hell, at least his mother, ex-wife, and son will be able to live in peace. Midge recounts that Lilith was once an angel who possessed a clear and melodious voice in heaven. That voice helped her to be loved by God, but it also made other angels jealous. In the end, they tricked her into joining Lucifer's rebel army so that she would be punished by God and pushed down to a place where there is never any music. And that's also why Lilith is attracted to sound. Currently, Lilith is in a diner in town, engrossed in the song playing from the speaker, not knowing that someone is gossiping behind her. Everyone has heard the rumor that Lilith wants to cause the apocalypse to take revenge on God. But the truth is that the demon king in hell has fallen in love with her. No wonder she's always trying to get out. Since her escape from hell before, Lilith has always vented her anger on every man she meets. She uses her mind control abilities to make them end their own lives. At this time, a reckless man approaches her. And when he touches Lilith, all the men around him simultaneously stand up and tear their own jaws apart. The women simultaneously kneel down and pay homage to the presence of a powerful demon. Although Midge doesn't know how to capture Lilith, she has brought an important clue. According to records in ancient books, there is a monastery that has existed for hundreds of years that once sealed Lilith. Looking at the drawing on the page, Hub suddenly has an idea, and the two immediately set out for a desolate suburban area. As soon as they leave, Lucky leads the police to arrest Kitty, while another group intercepts Marianne and Kate on the way out of town. Looking at the strange symbols and images on the wall, the police chief is even more convinced that this family is crazy, and is determined to arrest Hub at all costs. At this time, Hub is transporting a large sound system, because for him, music is to Lilith what the scent of blood is to sharks. His plan is to adjust the frequency to emit about 50 kHz, creating a broadcast signal within a radius of 30 miles. Humans won't be able to hear it, but for Lilith, it's the sound of her destruction. The luring plan is in place, but how to bring Lilith back to hell? Hub points to the map and says to look closely at these lines. They form an inverted pentagram formation. If that's how Lilith came to the human world, then perhaps that's also how to bring her back. Meanwhile, Marianne and Kitty are taken to police headquarters. No matter how much they explain that Hub is innocent, no one believes them. The police chief doesn't believe them either. She even uses Kate's freedom to threaten Marianne, forcing her to lure Hub to the bar. Midge and Hub, on their side, use branches to arrange magical symbols and use coffee cans to simulate an inverted pentagon. They place 5 cans in 5 corresponding positions and then hide them under layers of leaves. The speaker is placed right in the middle of the formation. But I still haven't figured out how to resist her mind control abilities. Hub said. She can't control our minds because we've all been to hell before, so we can see demons, right? Is that really why? Are you sure you've read that handbook? As the switch is flipped on, the deep sound from the speaker system makes the ground shake. Lilith, in the distance, feels like her name is being called. She immediately leaves the restaurant, leaving behind the women who have just awakened from their dazed state. Lilith lands right on the edge of the pentagram formation, but doesn't step inside. Seeing this, Hub has no choice but to step forward as bait. Lilith realizes that someone is ruining her private moment, so she angrily appears behind him, grabs him, and throws him into the formation. After that, she presses him down hard on the windshield. But things don't stop there. Lilith roars angrily and throws Hub flying into the air, intending to throw him down from above. Seeing Hub in danger, Midge finally has time to react. She immediately activates the trap. All 5 symbols simultaneously appear and the pentagram formation rises glowing from the ground. As the barrier closes, Lilith and Hub are both trapped inside. Lilith, seeing that she can't escape, angrily rushes towards Hub. But instead of harming him, she just slumps down beside the car, desperately begging him not to send her back to hell. She starts negotiating, promising that if Hub lets her go, she will revive Cheryl and help Hub escape from hell, achieving the freedom he desires. To prove her good intentions, Lilith even heals all of Hub's wounds. Midge frantically stops him and warns him not to believe the demon. But what Lilith says next completely sways Hub. If Cheryl is still alive, then he isn't a perpetrator of murder. His family will also forgive him, so this will be the perfect opportunity to start over. Ignoring Midge's words of warning, Hub decisively agrees to Lilith's offer. Removing the seal, he moves closer to one of the coffee cans and asks Lilith to pay up first. As Lilith's eyes glow, she transfers her consciousness into the body of a crow. The claw marks on Hub's hand fade, and he truly feels that he's been freed. Immediately afterward, Hub kicks away the can, dissolving the pentagon formation, and Lilith flies away from that place. Midge screams, cursing Hub as a selfish bastard. But she doesn't know that Hub is about to pay a very high price for this choice. He brings Cheryl, who has just been revived, to Lucky's bar and brutally skewers him without mercy. At that moment, his son and mother run over, frantically warning him that the police are on their way to arrest him. But Hub's face clearly shows relief. He explains that all the problems have finally been resolved. When he sees Marianne appear, he excitedly says that the claw marks on his hand have disappeared. But that joy only lasts for less than 3 seconds, because the police chief has appeared and orders her subordinates to handcuff Hub. Marianne sorrowfully rushes into the break room. While she's crying, a strange sound suddenly rings out from behind her. A crow appears and lands on the coat rack. Before long, Lucky is also at the scene. He intends to comfort Marianne with a few words, but before he can say anything, an invisible force throws him, slamming him hard into the wall. At the same time, a melodious tune rings out, causing Lucky to be unable to control himself and tear off his own lower jaw. As Hub is being escorted out of the bar, the strange sound suddenly rings out, causing everyone to stop immediately. As Marianne steps onto the stage, all the men present simultaneously raise their hands to cover their faces, while the women kneel in worship as if they are worshipping a dark goddess. In Hub's horrified eyes, Marianne slowly transforms into the fallen angel Lilith. After the song ends, Lilith looks straight at Hub. The demons will never stop, Hub. They won't spare me, and they won't spare Marianne. If you want her to survive, then submit to me. End of part 1.